at WrestleMania tomorrow, little bro beating big bro? No yeet!
Jey Uso's journey through WWE took an unexpected turn following the Royal Rumble, where he was poised to solidify his place as a main event talent. However, what followed was a series of creative misfires, poor booking, and inconsistent storylines that squandered the momentum he had built. Instead of capitalizing on the emotional storytelling and fan connection that Jey had garnered, WWE made choices that not only dimmed his star power, but actively hindered his growth as a singles competitor. The opportunities for Jey were immense following his Royal Rumble performance, but WWE's failure to properly follow through has left fans and analysts alike questioning the decisions that led to his creative stagnation. The post-Rumble struggle. Coming out of the Royal Rumble, Jey Uso had the chance to transition from a respected tag team wrestler to a legitimate singles competitor. His emotional storyline, deeply rooted in his struggles within the bloodline, had already won over fans. From his initial conflict with Roman Reigns to his eventual betrayal of his family, Jey's character was one of the most compelling in WWE. Fans had rallied behind him as an underdog who wanted to break free from the shackles of family loyalty, and his journey had been both heartbreaking and inspiring. However, rather than capitalizing on his Royal Rumble momentum, WWE placed him into lackluster feuds that felt more like filler than an opportunity to establish him as a top-tier talent. The creative direction after the Rumble showed a severe lack of long-term vision. Instead of positioning Jey for a high-profile match at WrestleMania or building a major storyline, WWE relegated him to multi-man matches and irrelevant tag team encounters that offered little to no advancement for his character. His emotional depth, the very element that had won him fans, was tossed aside in favor of gimmicky catchphrases and meaningless brawls. This inconsistency in booking was frustrating for fans who had seen what Jey was capable of during his rivalry with Roman Reigns and his development as a solo performer. Jey's connection with the audience had always been personal and authentic. His promo work was emotionally charged and resonated with fans, especially in contrast to the larger-than-life personas around him. Yet, WWE wasted his potential by reducing him to a one-dimensional character who was mostly known for catchphrases and his charismatic personality. The Bloodline Saga, a lost opportunity. Perhaps the biggest issue WWE faced with Jey Uso post-Royal Rumble was the mishandling of his relationship with his brother, Jimmy Uso. The betrayal by Jimmy at SummerSlam 2023 was one of the most shocking and emotional moments in WWE history. Fans were left on the edge of their seats, eagerly awaiting the fallout. This betrayal had been set up to be a cornerstone of Jey's post-Bloodline story, and a feud between the two brothers had the potential to carry significant emotional weight. However, by the time the Royal Rumble came around, the storyline had lost much of its heat. WWE had failed to capitalize on the raw emotion of Jey's personal feud with Jimmy. What could have been an intensely personal and blood-pumping rivalry instead turned into a drawn-out, uninspired angle that lacked the passion it had initially promised. Their interactions, once brimming with potential, ended up feeling flat and disjointed, mostly due to WWE's inability to keep the emotional intensity consistent and build towards a satisfying payoff. The lack of a meaningful build-up or conclusion to the Jimmy and Jey saga left fans feeling like the company had squandered a major opportunity. Inconsistent storytelling caused the intensity and excitement of their rivalry to dissipate, and by the time they finally collided, it felt more like an afterthought than a marquee match. Creative confusion. Who is Jey Uso now? WWE's creative direction with Jey Uso after the Royal Rumble was characterized by indecision. Jey was neither fully embraced as a main event player, nor was he allowed to settle comfortably in the mid-card. He existed in a strange limbo, where he didn't have a clear role and his character lacked focus. Fans had gotten behind Jey because they had witnessed his personal growth and his emotional journey. However, WWE never fully committed to that growth. Instead, they shifted his character focus back and forth between serious singles competitor and light-hearted comedy act, leaving him without any real direction. Before the Rumble, Jey's persona had been compelling, based on his struggle to find his own identity within the bloodline. After the Rumble, WWE failed to capitalize on this and leaned too much into his catchphrases and comedic side. While there's nothing wrong with having a charismatic, fun-loving character, this focus came at the expense of the depth that made Jey special. He had the potential to become one of the most emotionally complex characters in the company, but instead, WWE chose to undercut his potential by reducing him to a figure who often relied on light-hearted antics instead of meaningful storylines. The Lost Title Feud. One of the most glaring mistakes WWE made with Jey Uso after the Royal Rumble was not positioning him in a legitimate feud for a title. With his massive fan connection and the emotional storytelling that had already been built around his character, Jey was the perfect candidate for a high-profile singles feud, possibly for a mid-card title or even a top championship shot. However, WWE failed to pull the trigger on this potential, instead leaving Jey without a clear path toward WrestleMania. Jey was left to flounder in a creative vacuum. As WrestleMania approached, the excitement surrounding his potential diminished, and his booking felt increasingly like a missed opportunity. Fans wanted to see him succeed and prove himself as a top-tier talent, but WWE never gave him that chance. He was repeatedly booked in irrelevant tag team matches or in multi-man bouts that diluted his presence on the card. WWE's reluctance to give him a clear title shot or a meaningful feud left Jey's trajectory feeling stagnant, and by the time WrestleMania rolled around, it was clear that his potential had been wasted. John Cena's heel turn, a ripple effect on Jey Uso. In many ways, the failure to elevate Jey Uso in the post-Royal Rumble period was exacerbated by the unexpected heel turn of John Cena. Cena's character, for years, had been synonymous with consistency and the embodiment of the WWE's moral compass. However, when Cena turned on the fans, embracing a darker side of himself, it created a shift in the WWE landscape. Cena's heel turn had an immediate impact on the entire roster, altering the dynamics and leaving an opening for other stars to rise. Jey Uso, already riding a wave of fan support, was in a unique position to step into the void left by Cena's turn. Fans were yearning for a new hero to rally behind, someone who embodied the qualities Cena had once represented. Jey, with his underdog appeal, natural charisma, and compelling story, was the perfect candidate. Cena's heel turn also provided the ideal narrative backdrop for Jey's rise. He could have positioned himself as the new face of resilience, the antithesis to Cena's betrayal. Unfortunately, WWE failed to capitalize on this moment. Instead of using Cena's heel turn to help propel Jey forward, the company booked Cena's return as a way to focus on nostalgia, often overshadowing Jey's rise. Cena's involvement in Jey's story diluted Jey's momentum, as WWE shifted the spotlight back to Cena, robbing Jey of the chance to establish himself as a new face of WWE. The diminishment of Jey Uso's hype. By the time WrestleMania approached, it became clear that WWE had sacrificed Jey's rise for a nostalgia-driven storyline centered around Cena's return. The dynamic between Cena and Jey, which should have been used to elevate Jey, instead turned into a battle where Cena's overwhelming presence overshadowed Jey's growth. While Cena remained one of WWE's biggest icons, His involvement in Jey's storyline made Jey feel secondary rather than the primary focus of the feud. The spotlight that should have been on Jey was instead given to Cena, leaving Jey's trajectory hanging in the balance. Conclusion: a missed opportunity. Jey Uso's post-Royal Rumble journey stands as a prime example of WWE's failure to capitalize on a rising star. With his emotional story, natural charisma, and undeniable in-ring ability, Jey had everything needed to become one of WWE's top stars. However, poor booking decisions, inconsistent storytelling, and WWE's reluctance to fully commit to his character held him back. What could have been a breakout year for Jey ended up as one of WWE's biggest creative misfires. The company had a golden opportunity to elevate Jey to superstardom, but instead, they left him floundering in creative limbo, unable to capitalize on his organic momentum. In hindsight, WWE's handling of Jey Uso after the Royal Rumble represents a missed opportunity that not only hurt Jey, but also weakened the company's ability to build long-term stars. Whether WWE can correct course remains to be seen, but the frustration surrounding Jey Uso's booking serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of consistency, vision, and commitment to talent.